While the category of a hurricane is what tends to generate the headlines, it's the size that generally matters. Larger hurricanes can bring far greater damage across multiple states, thanks to a wider footprint of high wind, heavier rainfall, and more dangerous storm surge. Just look no further than the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, for example. Hurricane Helene expanded rapidly before making landfall, ballooning into one of the largest storms in U.S. history, an estimated width of over 400 miles, causing unprecedented damage even well inland and even into the mountains. Well, a new study led by Purdue University researchers has uncovered why some hurricanes grow significantly larger than others. So let's bring in Dr. Dan Chavas here, a professor at Purdue University. Dr. Chavas, thanks for being with us. Talk a little bit more about this research and why this is the thing that really most people in America should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, we focus mostly on intensity, which is the categories 1 through 5 that we use from the Saffir-Simpson scale, but yeah, we don't talk about size a lot. And so from our study, we were trying to understand is that some storms can be large and some storms can be small at the same intensity, and they often will change size sometimes significantly during their life cycle. And so in particular, we care leading up to landfall if they're going to become much larger. We'd like to be able to forecast that. So we had found that hurricanes tend to grow in size fast over ocean hotspots, so the areas that are warmer than really the rest of the tropics.
Professor, I often worry about, former Cat 5s or former major hurricanes that go through structural changes. They go through an eyewall replacement cycle, and they come out maybe a little bit weaker, maybe they re-strengthen, but they usually come out a lot larger.
Yeah.
Is that the main reason why hurricanes get so large, or is there something else going on?
It's a great question. Yeah, so you're exactly right that eyewall replacement cycles, we typically see the intensity go down, but then the wind field expands, so the storm gets larger. And then at the end of the cycle, the intensity can recover, but the storm is generally larger. And so that's one way in which hurricanes expand. That's not the only way. We often see hurricanes expand without going through eyewall replacement cycles, and this happens in particular over these ocean hotspots. So, but oftentimes the process by which they actually expand is through an eyewall replacement cycle over shorter time scales of a couple of days.
These ocean hotspots that you're talking about, those should be easily identifiable, right? And then the forecast then corresponds to where those hotspots are or what the hurricane's doing at that time?
Yeah, that's exactly right. In real time, yeah, we generally know what the sea surface temperatures look like across the basin. And so we can see if we have a forecast for where a hurricane's going to move, if its track happens to go over a particularly warm region, then we can expect that from our research, we can expect that the hurricane's probably more likely to expand more rapidly there. In terms of longer, if you go out more a few days or even weeks or months into the future, that's where it gets harder. We don't know exactly where the warmest parts of the ocean are going to be within the tropical cyclone basin.
So, Dr. Chavas, as you know, the Hurricane Center does forecast wind radii, the size out to a few days in advance. Is any of your research showing that we can do a better job of forecasting horizontal size a few more days out into the future?
Yeah, that's the hope. Yeah, they've just started in the last few years forecasting wind radii, and I think most of our models right now are not too complicated. I think this is a factor that we've found here is pretty systematic and important that we should be able to incorporate into better models for forecasting storm size in the future.
Dr. Chavas, this seems to be, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, it seems to be a problem that might be more confined to, say, the Caribbean or the Gulf than it would be the East Coast. Have you found any correlation in those regards?
Yeah, no, it's important everywhere. Often the storms that go up the East Coast even tend to get bigger, maybe for other reasons. Sometimes they're interacting with extratropical systems, and that tends to cause them to expand. Actually, this year in particular, Erin went over the subtropical waters just a few hundred kilometers to the east of the East Coast were especially warm. They were weirdly warm this year for the first few months of the season. And Hurricane Erin actually passed over there and expanded quite rapidly as well. So that may have been related to that. So it really depends. That's the thing is even you don't necessarily have to be the warmest, but if you make any particular region that a hurricane's going to pass over warmer locally than the rest of the tropics, that promotes a storm possibly getting larger, which could impact landfall.
Of course, Professor, as we talked about at the top, this is a big deal because if you get a much larger hurricane, all things considered equal, you're going to have a longer duration of winds, rainfall, and it's going to be a much bigger storm surge producer. So given the societal impacts, do you have a good handle on whether or not horizontally larger hurricanes are becoming more common, especially near landfall in the U.S.?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's not at this time any really strong trends. There are some very weak trends off the East Coast of storm size, but certainly at landfall, no, we don't see strong trends. And that's a little bit because, again, it's really about the location where it's warmest. And so that means within a season, you might have one storm or two that's larger, but maybe a couple storms that are smaller because they pass over different parts of the ocean basin. So kind of on average, this doesn't necessarily mean we'll see larger storms, but for any individual storm, it's possible that these ocean temperatures could have an impact.
Dr. Dan Chavas, Purdue University, thanks for being with us. Good talk.
Thanks for having me.